Com and Bwaggy on Twitter as well. It is Ben Young. The best ideas are free.
Good morning.
G'day, how are you?
Good.
Good. You went to something called Cloud Camp last week.
So I've completed the trifecta now. I went to an unconference last year. You went to an unconference a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And it's now becoming quite popular. I went along to another one on Friday called Cloud Camp.
What is that all about?
Cloud Camp is very technical. It's about software that runs in the cloud, and by in the cloud, that means through your internet browser, Firefox or Internet Explorer or anything like that.
Kind of like Gmail.
Yeah, Gmail, Google Docs, any application that runs within the browser.
Well, Flickr, I suppose we store photos.
Flickr, Picasa Web.
Yeah.
For those Google
well,
users.
YouTube could potentially be the cloud, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're storing your personal videos up there and you want to pull them down at some stage. And so the idea of the Cloud Camp is to bring lots of people together and have discussions around the issues facing it, such as adoption. There was the old legal spanner in the works with a lot of people asking how does it work. I'm a Kiwi company, but when I put my data on Google Docs, that's a US company. What are the legalities behind that?
Yeah.
Is the data held in trust for me or isn't it? And there are a whole lot of issues around that.
Now, what was one of the questions that came up for you?
So, to be honest, going to Cloud Camp, I understand most of the technological issues. Didn't want to get stuck in the legal side or some of the geeky standard stuff. I wanted to get stuck into the business, the strategy side, the marketing side, and see what the discussions were around that. And one of the interesting things during the strategy session was a question popped up: do we sell SaaS for SaaS or do we sell it for the business side? And people started talking. I had to stop them all. And this is a group of predominantly programmers. There are people outside that group. And I said, no one is buying SaaS for SaaS sake.
So you mean like sexy technology?
SaaS stands for software as a service.
Okay.
For example, Xero.com is a software as a service. You pay a monthly fee to access the online accounting software rather than paying a one-off fee to download software.
Okay.
So again, it's another bit of a geeky term.
Yeah.
And if I told you should buy this technology because it's SaaS, what are you going to say?
Well, I'd say, well, how's it going to work for me?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it functional?
So I immediately explained that no one in the world is buying SaaS for SaaS sake. And it's the same with any technology. People acquire new technology because it improves their life in some way. I'm not going to buy your software unless it improves my business. Or I'm not going to buy an iPad unless it improves my life somewhat. Enough for me to shell out the money to buy it.
That's probably true on a small business scale.
Yeah.
But do you think maybe large organisations do just end up just buying stuff because they've been told that it's the thing to do?
Well, in a larger organisation, the purchasing decisions are quite different. At the end of the day, bigger companies are much more responsible for their financial decisions. So they would tend to focus on, okay, I'm going to buy this new technology, but the reason I buy it is because it saves me 10% on capital expenditure, or it's going to improve productivity. There are a whole lot of other variables around that, and that's what I was explaining to these guys, that if I'm going to give you money, I want to make sure I get return on that money, especially in the last 18 to 24 months. People are looking to reallocate their spending to get the same or a better result with less money.
And so when you came up with that idea, what sort of response did you get?
There were lots of nods.
Yeah?
People understood it.
Okay.
And I think the difficulty with that is when you're deeply involved in a highly technical project, it's very hard to relate to the end customer because you've become so focused on the inner workings of your product that you forget about the end person buying the whole product. It's almost like if you're on the BMW production line, redesigning the whole chassis and then expecting people to buy it because it's got a new chassis. When really the end consumer probably doesn't know that it has a whole new chassis.
Yeah. All right. Well, so it's important for people in those industries to sort of step outside themselves and actually look on and go, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
What else sprang up for you?
Another little thing that popped up was, as we both know, I'm all about bringing fresh new ideas in. Yeah. And the hard thing is to get people to accept new ideas. And how can you position it so that they're going to go, hey, I need to try that? And it's the same for any technology company, but this is a bit of advice for Kiwis with their new technology ventures. When you pitch your product to a potential customer, you need to relate it to what they know. So if you're selling banking software, you need to relate it to the way that their banking software normally runs. If you're selling, let's say, some panel beating machinery, you need to sell it in the same methodology that others do. Because if you're too different, and the numbers there can vary, but I would argue about 20% different. If you're too different to the structures that they normally understand, and the structures that I'm talking about are pricing, delivery, how they expect it to on-sell it to their customers, that kind of stuff. If that's too radically different, it's easier to say, nah, it's too hard, I'm not going to go with it. So when you come up with a new technology, you need to price it in a methodology that people understand. It's like selling power. Do you sell it at 1 unit or 100 units? Right. Or do you sell it as a fixed monthly fee? And you'll see PowerShop did that. All they did is they let you buy and sell your units.
Yeah.
Whereas what they could have done is they could have said, look, it's $100 a month, we'll guarantee your power supply for the whole year.
Because they could have created a whole new terminology or something, but they chose not to.
Yeah.
Right.
They pitched it the way that consumers understood it.
Yeah.
And even though PowerShop is a whole new technology, people jumped on board because they understood how it worked, and it wasn't painful to jump aboard.
So you could have a completely different product to what is already in the market, but perhaps do you need to make it look similar in some way?
Well, in terms of the value proposition, you need to pitch it along the same lines. For example, let's say I designed a new tyre for a car. You don't want to pitch it on the fact that it's eco-friendly. You want to pitch it that the fact that it has the same performance, the same handling, and all the other variables are the same.
Right.
But it also is green friendly.
But it's better in these ways.
Yeah. So it's just pitching it so everyone can tick the box going, yes, this is an awesome product, and we do this. And the and is what is going to blow them away.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense, really. It's common sense at the end of the day.
It is common sense, but we often forget. But with a fresh idea, you need to relate it to what people know so that they can safely jump from what they know to what you want them to know.
But there is always this emphasis with new stuff to like say, oh, this is how new it is and how different it is, when that freaks people out.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, people resist change. We see that all the time, especially with financial analysts saying, buy a house, don't buy a house. People don't really, and by people I mean the whole market, doesn't really listen for maybe six to 9 months, and that's a lag effect. People don't want to change unless they have to. So we actually resist change. If you make the change very easy and it's a nice little step, people are likely to take the step. If it's a big leap where it looks like they might fall down, people just aren't going to take that leap.
Good. Well, if people